Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. We just finished getting the field cut, and as I'm riding up and down the field looking at this pond in the background, I'm just kind of overwhelmed with how well this project turned out. I think you guys heard me when we started this project. This was originally supposed to be nothing more than a glorified borrow pit, right? We stole a bunch of clay from here. We knew that we hit groundwater, so it was just going to be, I really didn't care what it looked like when it was done. I just wanted to get the clay out and have a water source that we could pump water up to the new pond. Well, now that it's done and it has turned into what it's turned into and looks pretty awesome, it's kind of one of those projects that I want to keep going and take it to the next level. That's what we're going to do today. So originally, the plan for this pond was just to be this section right here. Well, as we mentioned when we were digging it out, the clay wasn't as deep and thick as we thought. We only had about 3 feet of clay. So we ended up needing to wrap around that tree line to continue hunting for clay. So what ended up happening is now we've got kind of a Mickey Mouse shaped pond with this little peninsula area right here. And as I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm thinking, man, if we got that cleaned up, there's only about 4 big trees in that area. All the rest is just some scrubby 1, 2, 3 inch trees in there. I'm thinking that would be a beautiful spot to put a little campfire pit, maybe a picnic table, a couple benches. So that's the plan. Is today I want to go in there and get that all cleaned out, just leave the big trees and almost make it kind of like a little park in there. And we just got the perfect tool for the job. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing unboxed, uncrated, assembled, and on the back of the tractor, and then we'll show you exactly what it is. All right, so we got our new attachment hooked up to the back of the tractor here. This is the Baumalight MP560. And essentially what it is a forestry mulcher for the back of your tractor. Now, if you're familiar with forestry mulchers, typically you see them on the front of skid loaders that have high flow. And this is kind of a game changer in the industry because this allows you to be able to put a forestry mulcher on a $40,000 to $50,000 machine instead of a $100,000 high flow skid steer. So now granted, on a skid loader, you're facing forwards. They are a little bit better. You can also get this same exact mulcher for a skid loader from Baumalight, but the fact that I don't have a skid loader and I've got a tractor that can run this is gonna save us a lot of money and not have to have a second machine here. But you can see what we're looking at is getting rid of all of this stuff. As we get back in here, you'll see there's about 4 big trees that I wanna leave, and I want to get rid of all of this underbrush back in here and clean this up and get it looking like a park. Now, as you notice on the excavator over here, we also have the Baumalight MX330, which is a flail mulcher. And if you notice the difference between the teeth, forestry mulcher, flail mulcher, this is a little bit lighter duty. And the reason for that is because my excavator only puts out about 14.5 gallons per minute. It's actually on the lower end of hydraulic flow for this size of excavator from what I've seen out there on the market. It runs this just fine, but you start getting into 2, 3 inch material, you start to have to take smaller bites. You bring it down on top of a sapling, you grind down a foot or 2, bring it back up, let it spool back up. This thing, I don't think we'll have to do that a whole lot with the size material we have in here. So I became very interested in forestry mulchers when Klein Energy was out here clearing our woods. They had one on the front of their skid loader. And while they were doing that with their skid loader, I brought the excavator back with the flail mulcher and was kind of working alongside them. And it was crazy the amount of difference in the land they were able to cover with a 5 or 6 foot forestry head versus what I was able to cover with this. Now, where this thing really shines, it's not as powerful, it's not as wide, it's not gonna move as quickly as this, but if you're on ditches or steep banks or pond banks or in and around trees, I'm gonna basically say this is kind of like your heavy duty weed whacker and this is your heavy duty lawnmower. So that's kind of how I plan on using these 2 tools. I'm gonna do all the heavy lifting with the MP560, and then I'll come in and kind of clean up around all of the trees with the MX330. So let's go ahead and get started. So a couple of things before we get going here. The first is that this is a very heavy attachment. It weighs about 2,000 or 2,100 pounds in the back of the tractor, so you want to make sure you have decent ballast on the front. I have a Grapple, which is one of my heavier implements for the front of the tractor. Because I'm not familiar with this machine yet, I've never run it before, haven't even fired it up yet, I'm going to be working extremely slow, getting a feel for it. And 2, it does say with those new teeth on the cutter head, they are razor sharp, and they say to keep it up out of the dirt for the first 4 hours because they're more likely to break as they're new and razor sharp. Once they wear down a little bit, then you can go ahead and start dragging it through the dirt. This is rated to drag through the top layer of soil to really mulch down into the soil. So I'm gonna go ahead and fire this up for the first time. I'm gonna lower my RPMs down. Now I do have the hydraulic top link on this, which is nice because I can go ahead and push the flail mulcher forward to get that pusher bar to go down, so I can try to push this tree over as I mulch it. So let's see if this works like I think it's going to. I'm going to shut it off right now that I've got the grapple on here and get some of these trees that are in the way out of here. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention, there is a door that you can open and close. If you close it, it's better for mulching, but leaving it open is going to allow you to pull material into the drum better. All right, so I think we're gonna be done with the forestry mulcher on the back of the tractor for now. But man, oh man, does that thing do a nice job. You can see I've still got some stuff here on the edge of the pond that I didn't want to have a tire sink down into. So I think we're gonna hop in the excavator and do all the finish mulching here, the stuff next to the trees, kind of grind all the rest of this stuff up. For some reason, my grapple isn't working right now, so I wasn't able to get this log out of here. So I mentioned earlier that our grapple wasn't working properly and I wasn't sure what was going on with it. It would open, but it wouldn't close. And after doing a little bit of troubleshooting and research online, some people said that it could be your hydraulic coupler. I have flat face couplers on that tractor, which just makes it easier to switch between tractor attachments and skid loader attachments because skid loaders run flat face couplers. So I just went down to my Sandy Lake dealer, brought the coupler to them. It would not, after I took it off and tried to put it back on, it would not go back on. So there was something wrong with the coupler itself. Went down to my local LS dealer and they swapped it out for me free of charge. So if I had bought this originally from Tractor Supply, I would have been up a river of excrement without means of propulsion. But because I bought it at a dealer, they warranted this part, and these aren't cheap. They're like $100. So it was more expensive to have bought it at the dealer to begin with, but when you need warranty stuff, going back and getting a replacement part, definitely nice to buy it from a dealer. But you can see, I mean, you can borderline use this thing as a stump grinder. There's the tree, and that's a, I don't know, 7-8 inch tree, and the stump is right here. And it just ground it right down flush with the ground. So tell you what, that thing is powerful. To be able to run something like that on a tractor, complete game changer. Gone are the days of needing a $100,000 skid loader to do this kind of work. Anyway, let's hop in the excavator and get the rest of this stuff cleaned up. All right, so this will really show you the difference between a forestry mulcher and a flail mulcher. You've seen me take this stuff down all day long with that forestry mulcher. This is what it looks like with the flail mulcher. Now, you also have to realize that some of this is going to be limited by the flow of my excavator. Normally, an excavator this size, if you're looking at Kubota or Deere or other brands, they might be in that 18 to 20 to maybe even 25 gallons per minute of flow, and mine's only, I can't remember if it's like 14 or 16, so I have lower flow on my machine. So I think that this flail mulcher would honestly run better on a machine with more flow. I don't think the limiting factor here is the mulcher, it's the flow on my machine. But as you can see, it's still capable of chopping this stuff up. It just doesn't grind quite as well. Now here's something you really can't do with the one on the tractor, and that is prune trees back and cut low-hanging branches so that you're not worried about hitting it on the cab of the tractor when I come through here next time. So this stuff here, I like starting at the top of it and working my way down because it's a lot easier to mulch it up when it's still connected to the ground. It's kind of like you got somebody holding the other end of it in place. Otherwise, if you cut it at the base first and then try to grind it up on the ground, it's liable to get wound up around the drum there and jam this thing up. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is on that MP560, you are hooked right up to the PTO, which is a much more efficient use of your horsepower. Whereas with this, you're running a hydraulic pump from the motor to then run the pump inside the attachment. And so you lose a lot of efficiency. So for reference sake, this is a 64 horsepower excavator, and that tractor is a 57 horsepower excavator. But when it comes to actual mulching, that tractor with the PTO powered implement beats the pants off of this flail mulcher on the end of the excavator just because it's PTO versus hydraulic powered. Now where a skid steer beats the excavator is now you're talking, you know, a 75 horse, 100 horse skid loader, and their hydraulic pumps with high flow are much more powerful. So well guys, I'm a big fan of before and afters, and right here is the before and this is the after. So I'm still gonna have a little bit of cleanup work left to do in here. I wanna come in here and grade this out. It was a little soft right over there. So my plan is I'm gonna come in here with the excavator and back drag this to smooth it out a little bit. And then maybe we'll get some grass seed in here. I would put the land plane or the box blade on the back of the tractor to drag all that out, but this thing being 2,000 pounds, it's a little bit cumbersome to get hooked up to the machine, and I don't want to take it off just yet because I've got about 9 other areas on the property I want to use this thing. That is awesome. But this is what it'll leave you with. I mean, imagine if I had come in here with the excavator and just ripped all this stuff out, the pile of brush that I would have. And if you look, this is what you're left with. You've got a little bit of scrap that in no time at all would break down and turn into good topsoil or compost. All right, guys, I think that's going to be a wrap for this video. What a transformation. These are my favorite kinds of videos to make, where you start with something that looks really junky and overgrown, and within a day's time, you've got an area that came out pretty cool. This is still not done yet. When we were shaping the pond dam, some of that material on the water's edge was still pretty wet. So you can see this is still a little muddy. I smeared it out as best as I could with the tilt bucket on the excavator to get it to dry out. We'll give it a couple days and then we'll come in here with either the land plane or the box blade on the tractor and finish getting this all smoothed out. And then once we've got it graded how we want, we'll go ahead and get some grass seed on it, and then we should be done. But I can just picture it now, camping out here in tents with the kids and having campfires, making s'mores down here by the pond. Not bad for what was supposed to be just a borrow pit. But yeah, that Baumalight Forestry Mulcher is an incredible tool. I will leave a link in the description if anybody is interested in checking it out. Great North American made product. And I mentioned before that that attachment is fairly heavy. It's about 2,000 pounds or 2,100 pounds. I know my old tractor, the Coyote 35 horsepower tractor, there's no way it would lift it. There's no way it would run it. But that LS 57 horse tractor ran it beautifully. I was actually really surprised because typically, like I said before, those things are designed to run on skid loaders, and that tractor did, as you can see behind me, an awesome job. Now, if you don't have a 57 horse tractor, they do have different size models to fit whatever tractor you have. They have a sizing chart on their website that will help you pick the right model for your tractor based on PTO horsepower requirements, 3-point lift capacities, and they also have a dealer network all across North America. So if you find your local dealer, you'll be able to call them and they will help you find the right attachment for your tractor. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna about wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.